Hi everyone, I'm back to show you a modified version of my paper bag accordion album that I showed a couple of weeks ago. This guy here, one that flips open and has a pocket at the end of every page. And you know what, I originally planned to do this video because I felt like I may have ripped you guys off by not showing you one of these with some embellishments on it, or at least paper. So I started making the new one, and you know what? These little folds really bother me, and I find I usually glue them closed, and even when I do, when you're sticking tags in and out, they get in the way. So I was on YouTube and I saw a video that Kathy from Paper Phenomenon put up, and she did this neat version where there's a pocket along the bottom of each page and along the side of each page. Well, I took her idea and I modified it a little bit to suit this album, and I wanted to show you guys that. So here is an embellished version of the mini I'm going to be showing you guys how to make today. So this is the cover. You open it up, just like the original accordion mini. You have a pocket at the end, but you also have this pocket here, and you have a flap that lifts up on this side of the page. When you turn the page, again you have your pocket on the end, pocket here, and a flap. And that continues throughout the entire mini. Pocket, pocket, and this is the back cover, so there's no flap there. So if you start flipping through the opposite direction, you'll see the mini album is in reverse. So there's the flap on your left hand page with a pocket on your right, a pocket in the end of the right hand page as well. So you can just flip through, and sorry guys, it's a little stuck. Flap, pocket, pocket, flap, and a pocket. Sorry, one last pocket here too. So I'll show you guys how to make this one. I'm going to be giving you dimensions today that are based on the Michaels Celebrate It bags. These guys here that are 4 5/8 inches by 2 7/8 by 8 5/8. I'm actually demonstrating this on standard brown paper lunch bags, so when you see me doing my cuts and they're not to what the dimensions I'm telling you, don't fret. It's just that I don't want to use up my Celebrate It bags. So the first thing you need to do is fold the bottom of the bag up towards the top. Like this, and crease. Now I think I also told you guys last time, I don't like this jaggedy edge. So the first thing I do is I grab my paper cutter and I cut those edges off on all my bags. And the reason I do this after I folded the bottom of the bag is because then you know that you have the same width of page. This fold doesn't always land in exactly the same spot, so it just gives you a nicer finished look. So on using the Celebrate It bags from Michaels, I would cut this to 5 7/8 inches. I'm cutting mine today to 7 inches, but these bags are a little bit larger. So after you've done that, you need to take this flap and fold it down towards the bottom of the bag. Open this up and see this little flap? Just pull it towards you. Pull this little triangle towards you. Press down. You don't have to crease this one too much. The only reason we're doing this is we're going to make a cut here soon, and I don't want to cut the bottom of the bag open. Okay? So now what you do is you cut from the edge of the bag up to the tip of this triangle. You can kind of see a triangle. It's a little hard to see on film. When you're doing it yourself, you'll see it. However, if you are having a hard time, all you need to do is straighten this out, flatten it, and the point you have to cut to becomes really obvious, okay? So you cut right along this crease up to where it intersects the next fold. Turn it around, I'm going to do the same thing. See? And what that does is that releases your side, the inside of the bag here. Those little folds that I don't like. Gets rid of those. And this is what's going to allow us to make the pocket and the flap as well. Okay, so now we're done that part. We can fold the bottom of the bag down. And the next thing we're going to do is cut from the edge of the bag all the way up into this, where these two folds intersect. Now what I do is I make this cut just on this side of the fold. And the reason I do that is so that when you're flipping through your album, the edges of your flap and your pocket don't get caught in the creases in the binding of your album. So, just going to bring my cutter back up. I like using my cutter for this because I like having nice straight cuts here. And I'm just going to cut up to where those two folds intersect on both sides. Now we can just tuck these little guys back in for now. Next thing I do is I tape this flap down. Oops. Tape that down. And these guys, you're going to go fold one way and one the other way. And then you have your basic page, one page. So you do this with several pages. I've already done a couple others. And remember last time, in order to fit the end of the bag into the top of the next one, I cut a wedge off. So what I do, I need to do the same thing for these bags. So I take one of them, set it aside, okay? The rest, I cut a wedge. This one's already cut. So I'll show you on this one. And I just take my scissors. You're not going to see this cut either. And I cut, you know, a wedge. I give it at least 1/8 of an inch. Cut back to where this fold is, or even just past the fold. After you've done that, it'll release a few pieces of paper in here, so I just pull these guys out. Do that on the other side. And you're good to go. Now what I like to do is I like to use one strip of score tape right along the fold here. Just gives it a nice strong bond. And I always put my adhesive on the bottom of the bag where all these extra flaps are, because ultimately when that's glued inside the next pocket, then you have a nice smooth surface for your tag to slide in next to. Okay, so now we're ready to start gluing our bags together. First, you start with the bag that is not cut on the bottom. This is the side that's going to attach to your front cover. So you take your next bag. Don't worry about what direction these flaps are folded in. We're going to sort those out later. So you apply adhesive to the bottom side of this bag. I usually put several strips. and maybe one down each side. Now at this point, I do not remove the backing of my score tape because this stuff is really sticky and it's very, very unforgiving. So I like to do that afterwards. So what you need to do is pay attention to these folds at the bottom of the bag. You're going to have the fold down, fold up, fold down, fold up. That makes your W for your accordion album. So this first bag, slide in with the glue facing down and attach it together. So I'm just going to turn these so it's a little easier for me to glue it together. So once that's glued down, just pull the edge back here, remove the back of your score tape, stick that down. Now I always put my bags back down the same direction they were, just so I don't get mixed up. So this next bag, because the last one you glued in with the glue facing down, you're going to put adhesive on the bottom, slide it in to the previous bag with the glue up, like this. And you're going to alternate until you use up all of your bags. So now that you have all your pages glued together, you can figure out what direction these flaps should be folded in. Now, I don't like to have a pocket all on the one side of my album, so I alternate from page to page. So if this is my cover, I may start with a pocket at the bottom of my first page, so then you fold the flap on the top to the back. So the next page, you're going to have a flap and not a pocket. So you fold the pocket to the back and the flap down to the front. And you continue this, alternating to the end of your album. Now I don't actually glue these down until after I adhere my cardstock matting to the pages. The reason being is I like to have a little bit of an overlap. I like to tuck my matting in by about 1/8 of an inch into this pocket, just for a nice finished look. So for the Celebrate It bags, the mat size I cut for the pocket page is 5 5/8 inches wide by 3 3/8 inches tall. Once I've adhered that mat to the page, what I do is I glue right inside here. I glue these sides together, sides of the pocket, then I glue each edge, stick it down. Mat size I use for the front of the pocket is again 5 5/8 inches wide by 1 1/4 inches tall. Mat size I use for the full page is 5 5/8 inches wide by 4 1/2 inches high. Now what I do with the flap is I cut two pieces, one for the top, one for the inside. And I cut those a little bit wider. I cut those 5 7/8 inches wide. I cut them as wide as the flap. Or if you want, you could cut them just slightly, maybe 5 3/4, because then you won't get as much problems in the fold here. And I make them 4 1/2 inches tall. So I glue one to one side, flip it over, glue one to the other, and I do leave 1/8 of an inch along the top. And so that finishes your flap. And then you end up with the album I showed you at the beginning here. You've got your pocket and your flap.